Welcome back. Welcome back. My cat's missing. My son don't pay attention to nothing. Lord, please have them come back. Mm, mm, mm. Well, let's get back into Alvin Bragg Part 2. The worst district attorney in New York City ever elected. I'm just going to get right to it. This is the Hill.
Russian election interference probe. Now, earlier, Trump had also revoked former President Joe Biden's security clearance. He wrote in part on Truth Social last week, "There's no need for Joe Biden to continue receiving access to classified information. Therefore, we are immediately revoking Joe Biden's security clearances and stopping his daily intelligence briefings." He set this precedent in 2021 when he instructed the intelligence community to stop the 45th president of the United States, me, from accessing details on national security, a courtesy provided to former presidents. Joe, you're fired. Make America great again. Trump also revoked lawyer Mark Zaid's security clearance. Zaid formerly represented CIA analyst Eric Ciaramella. Ciaramella was a whistleblower in Trump's first impeachment, which surrounded a phone call Trump had with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zaid took to Blue Sky and wrote, "I'm honored by President Trump bestowing upon me a red badge of courage. But if he and his partisan minions think this will deter me from holding them accountable to the rule of law, they are sadly mistaken," end quote. A lawyer who works with Zaid, Bradley Moss, wrote, quote, "Fotis revoked my boss's clearance because Fotis is a pathetic little man. Blah, blah, blah. I'll be next, no doubt." Meanwhile, journalist Adam Housley wrote on X, Jake Sullivan should have lost his security clearance 13 years ago when he lied to Americans about the attack in Benghazi. Sometimes karma takes time. The real question here is, why did Letitia James and Alvin Bragg have security clearances to begin with?
Facts.
And that is also a question I was wondering, and I guess I could have tried to Google it while you were reading. I don't know why they would. Well, in Bragg's case, maybe as a prosecutor, there's some relevance to what he needs to look at behind the scenes. I think there's two separate ways of looking at this, Robbie. Yeah. And it's often the case that this kind of dichotomy applies with Trump. One is, I do think, and I do accept that there's an abstract argument about whether even former presidents should have security clearances. Do they need them? Is it salient in some way? And obviously the same goes for the Jake Sullivans in the world and his equivalent on the Republican side. So you can have that abstract argument. That's a separate thing from Trump, as I would see it, simply pursuing things for the sake of vindictiveness, trying to get Biden back, for example, trying to attack Tony Blinken because of the Russian disinformation story, etc.
So that's enough. We already know he took their security clearance. I'm going to delete this. I don't need that no more. As he should. Lord have mercy, God. Let my cats come back. Oh, God. I told him Jack would leave. I told him that. Damn.
And also we had a number of litigations, more than 100 involving the Trump administration. I led the team that held Trump and his children accountable for the misconduct with the Trump Foundation. I oversaw the work which sued his administration more than 100 times. I led the Attorney General's work on the Trump Foundation case where we helped.
More than 100 times you built your career on Trump. And everything backfired. Reverse.
His family accountable. When I was at the Attorney General's office, I led our work on the Trump Foundation matter.
And we are back, y'all.
This is Fair Legal Institute.
Go ahead and hit that like button, people. You know, it helps us out a
That's
ton.
Fair Legal Institute.
Well, really taking Alvin Bragg to task about his boasting about going after Trump.
This week, I joined Democratic attorneys general from across the country in fighting to stop the chaos, confusion, and conflict caused by the president and his administration. Their policies are making life
Jack is not in here.
expensive for everyday New Yorkers.
I told you it was gonna happen.
To students in underserved schools who need
Oh,
quality
you better
teachers,
pray they come
to
back.
federal employees who need to put food
Jack-
on the table.
Jack will make
This
it back.
administration
Max
cannot
might
ignore
not.
the law. In each and every case, we have won court orders
Damn.
stopping the dismantling of our
Don't
government.
want shit.
And as your Attorney General, I will continue to enforce the law and protect our state.
They probably
This
have
week,
been gone.
We won another victory in our case against the Trump administration for trying to cut funds for critical medical research. We stopped the administration from cutting billions of dollars for the National Institute of Health that supports important research into cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and more. At research institutions including the University at Albany, Stony Brook, and the University of Buffalo. We also stopped the Trump administration's illegal funding freeze that threatened Medicaid, law enforcement, child care, and other essential programs. Congress, not the president, holds the power of the purse. And Donald Trump cannot single-handedly cut off funding for seniors, veterans, children, and all New Yorkers. The Trump administration has also cut crucial programs that help train and hire teachers at under-resourced schools and rural communities. These programs ensure that every kid, no matter where they live, has access to a quality education. We sued the Department of Education to restore these programs that support our educators and our students. To protect federal workers, I filed another lawsuit with my fellow attorneys general against the administration for illegally firing
I'm live.
thousands of probationary federal.
I'm live.
Rest assured,
No, I didn't.
we will continue to fight every
Well,
day.
just pray Jack and Max make it back because they done
Protect our
disappeared
communities.
because he wasn't watching them. Bye.
New Yorkers get the support they need.
All right, now we're going to shoot into this House Judiciary Committee where they discuss Alvin Bragg and his lawfare against Trump. Share this video out, people. Hit the share button and put in somebody's WhatsApp, text message, Facebook. You know how it is. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. Y'all know I love y'all. And let's go ahead and get into it.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I think it was discussed earlier that this was not about politics and that people campaigning for district attorneys were not campaigning on going after the former president, now current president. But that, of course, is belied by the evidence, and I think we have a video to show just that.
Whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump?
Look, that is the number one issue. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times. I sued Trump over 100 times and brought a case against the Trump Foundation and held him accountable. Holding Trump accountable for the Trump Foundation, from exposing illegal behavior by the Trump Foundation. I do have a lot of experience with the former president. I led the New York State Attorney General's work and investigation and successful litigation against him and his family for their misconduct with the Trump Foundation. And also we had a number of litigations, more than 100 involving the Trump administration. I led the team that held Trump and his children accountable for their misconduct with the Trump Foundation. I oversaw the work which sued his administration more than 100 times. I led the Attorney General's work on the Trump Foundation case where we held Trump and his family accountable. When I was at the Attorney General's office, I led our work on the Trump Foundation matter. I also led the team that did the Trump Foundation case, and I've seen him up front and seen the lawlessness that he could do. Started out as a civil rights lawyer, then became a federal prosecutor, ultimately was the number 2 lawyer in the New York State Attorney General's office, leading the charge against the racist policies of the Trump administration. I believe we have to hold him accountable. I've litigated with him, and so I'm prepared to go where the facts take me once I see them and hold him accountable. Being a rich, old white man has allowed you to evade accountability in Manhattan. That includes Trump and his children, right? We held him accountable in the Trump Foundation case. My office did the Trump University case. So I've seen a pattern of lawlessness over 20 years. And so I'm inclined to believe all I see in the public domain and know that there's and believe that there's a path forward there to make a case.
So I think we go back to the basic premise of the bill, is that you have a prosecutor in New York. He's not worried about crime in New York, Manhattan. He is worried about going after
Facts.
the former president of the United
Facts.
States. Why? Because it earns him political points
Facts.
in a jurisdiction that did not vote for Donald Trump. And so they elected this guy to go after him, despite the fact that there are other crimes that you could be going after, but resources are dedicated. And so to sit here today and say that this has not been about politics, it's about fairness in the system, it's total BS to believe that that is actually the case, because he said it a million times on television. He campaigned on it. And that is the purpose. One of the huge purposes of this bill is to remove that from a fairness perspective, that a jury in a federal system, that a different system that is not rigged in a state court can go and have a fair trial. The presumption of innocence is on a criminal defendant. And if we do this for ambassadors, if we do this for sitting presidents right now, why would we not extend that to somebody when they're targeting a former president or vice president?
Will the gentleman yield
for political
for a
points?
question?
With that, no, I yield back.
Gentleman Clancy yield.
To the gentleman from Kentucky.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Kentucky. Will the gentleman from Kentucky yield?
I yield back to the chairman.
All right, the gentleman yields back.
Very unfriendly over there.
The gentleman from New York.
Strike the last word.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, what we saw.
I'm gonna let that one go. I gotta get out here and find my cat. Let me find this other video. I'm gonna have to get in the car and find my cat. Dior! Oh, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, here we go. Judge Joe Brown.
I want to get into this. Letitia James.
I'm going to go past that part.
Right.
Knowingly false statements on an application form or report or return.
James, former Governor Andrew Cuomo is suing the New York State Comptroller Office to get taxpayers.
Sometimes on things like, let's say, that require federal security clearances.
It says a memorandum has issued
Blacks.
motivated and violated ethical legal standards.
I'm going to put this on her.
Argues that James' investigation into Trump's business.
Yeah, okay, we're going to get rid of that. All right, y'all, let's get to this next one. But he is awful. He built his whole career going after that man and didn't care about all the crime the migrants did in New York City. They could unalive somebody and they was out the next day. He let them create mayhem in there. They didn't care about nobody but Trump.
Texas, Mr. Gill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lawfare is antithetical to the American experiment. It's explicitly contrary to the rule of law, but yet it seems to have been the Democrats' last-ditch effort to win the 2024 election cycle. In the lead up to the 2024 election, Democrats knew that they couldn't fairly win. They were running a candidate whose cognitive state was in question, that was declining before our very eyes on national TV while they were trying to tell us that he was sharper than ever. Their political strategy reminds me of the line in Orwell's 1984, which was, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And that was consistent with the left's messaging. They were trying to tell the American people, for instance, that defunding the police makes our communities safer, that men can get pregnant and should be sharing locker rooms with our daughters, and that flooding our country with millions of cheap serf laborers would be somehow economically beneficial to our working class. But in order to get over this messaging issue, they attempted to, again, flood the country with people that they thought would eventually become Democrat voters, knowing even now that our election system had legitimate vulnerabilities to it.
Facts.
They directed social media companies to censor lawful speech of American citizens and illegally put President Trump behind bars for made-up federal charges.
Absolutely facts.
In an attempt to prevent him from getting back into the White House, what we witnessed was a grotesque exercise of raw political power by the Democrats against their enemies. And that's why I'm excited about our markup tomorrow. We've got a series of bills that I think are a good first step in helping ensure this lawfare doesn't happen again. But I want to talk about one instance in particular, which was Democrats calling upon corrupt state-level officials to peruse state-level lawfare and punish President Trump and the millions of Americans who supported his campaign. Their one last hope leading up to the election was to concoct a novel legal theory by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg in the state of New York didn't have jurisdiction to hear this case.
Facts. Come on.
That moving forward would violate settled Supreme Court doctrine, but again, this was their last best hope. The state of New York, with Democrat donor Judge Juan Merchan overseeing the case, finally got their wish. They landed a conviction of the president. But the American people knew it was a sham, and now they know the lengths to which the other side of the aisle will go to attack their political opposition. Mr. Epstein, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it and appreciate your work to restore law and order in this country. I want to ask you a couple questions. The charges in the case against President Trump in New York largely revolve around the Federal Election Campaign Act. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
But that act grants exclusive jurisdiction over federal election issues to the FEC and the DOJ. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did the state of New York and DA Bragg have any jurisdiction over those supposed campaign finance violations?
No, and in fact,
You need to
Congressman, I point out.
You need to go up there about 12 miles. Where's Jack?
His first administration made disclosures about payments in his financial disclosures, which is clear evidence that that's
Where's
a
Jack?
federal nexus, and it's wholly within not just the FEC, but the Office of Government Ethics.
And Alvin Bragg was certainly aware he was pursuing a frivolous case here, yet he decided to very aggressively and very publicly
Wait a minute,
forward with support from the Biden DOJ.
What motive do you think, or would you ascribe to Bragg to move forward with such a clearly baseless case?
You know, I can't speculate on what his motives were, but I think enough is spoken by how the American people recently determined who should be the president of the United States. And I think that there is a general view in the public mood of the American public that looking to prosecute political enemies raises serious concerns about not just the law, but what culture do we want in America.
I agree. Thank you, Mr. Epstein. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, you see request. This is from Reuters, January 20th. Who has Donald Trump threatened to criminally prosecute?
Before he makes more statements.
And I did record the I recorded the call.
Himself.
I recorded the call.
In his best interest, he might want to listen to this call before he makes any further statements.
You don't know what? That's the third time you've done it. You're gone. Mr. Allen, take him. You better get Mr. Burgess down here because I want to hear those calls because he's interfered with it.
And Mary Review, on behalf of Mr. Lee,
I'm sorry, I'm looking for my cat. One came back.
With Mr. Lee's consent, to my knowledge.
Oh, let me get. What the hell did this go to? Oh, Jesus. Oh, God, what the hell happened?
Before he makes more statements.
And I did record.
Okay, here we go. What day is this? Oh, God, please let Max come back. Oh, that was just a second. Shit. Oh. I'm devastated right now. Oh my God. Just give me a minute to get to the next. But anyway, Alvin Bragg was funded by George Soros, Illuminati himself. They so scared of a Trump, but can you just corruption? I'm so distraught. I can't even get my thoughts together. God, please let Max make it home. Lord have mercy. We only got a few more videos. And I'm going to have to get in my car. And how Jack come back without Max? He just left him. Jack, why you leave Max out there? Okay, here we go.
Bragg. You guys remember him? It's been a minute since we dropped by our boy.
Whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump? Look, that is the number one issue. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times. I sued Trump over 100 times and brought a case against the Trump Foundation, holding Trump accountable for the Trump Foundation. I do have a lot of experience with the former president. I led the New York State Attorney General's work and investigation and successful litigation against him and his family for their misconduct with the Trump Foundation. And also we had a number of litigations, more than 100 involving the Trump administration, Trump Foundation, more than 100 times that Trump administration. Being a rich old white man has allowed you to evade accountability in Manhattan. That includes Trump and his children. Trump over 20 years. And so I'm inclined to believe all I see in the public domain and know that and believe that there's a path forward there to make a case.
I wonder how basing his entire tenure in office on getting Trump has been working for him.
Right, that part. Built the whole career, him and Letitia James, but you let them migrants do everything. Grade, a SA, you know, they get away with everything. Get out the next day. You didn't care nothing about the citizens of New York. I gotta find my cat. Oh my God. I gotta find him before dark. What day is? Oh, okay, I got a few more. Just about 3 more videos. Damn, I should not have all this. Okay. Just a few more. Just give me a minute. He's still out there looking for him. As soon as I finish this, I'm about to drive up and down there because he got to be going towards Gratiot. And how Jack come back without him? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, here we go. Let me see.
Matt! Matt!
Here we go. Then they gonna dismiss the shit.
Bragg urged
this court, you, Judge Juan Merchan, and you did it, to front run the Supreme Court of the United States. Trump's defense, Your Honor, objection, that evidence can come in, presidential immunity. And the government, no, it doesn't exist. It's not even a rule they're talking about. In fact, we should have case law that shows the exact opposite. It's ultimately up to the government to rebut that presumption. Where the presumption applies, at a minimum, the president must therefore be immune. Oh,
Facts.
no, Alvin Bragg blown out. Alvin Bragg and Juan Merchan made a big mistake. They did not consider presidential immunity for the
Facts.
prosecution of Trump. And the Supreme Court said, you guys should have done that because immunity is something that is applicable to the presidency. Obviously, everybody knew this. The reason why they didn't want to consider it and allow it to be something that paused this underlying case is because they wanted a conviction against Trump. They were going to do everything that they could to get it. And now
Facts.
it's coming back to bite them in Alvin Bragg's booty. So we're going to talk about this motion. You can see it's a 55-pager submitted in the case by President Trump. So this is from his defense team, and it is a good one. We're going to go through it in detail today because I want to make sure this whole thing is on the record. All right, Judge Juan Merchan. And remember, the backdrop here is you have to submit a little permission slip to the judge. This judge, Judge Juan Merchan, is the same judge who made 2 donations to Joe Biden. They were small donations. And he did the next day, fired another one off. His daughter is somebody who raised $93 million for Democrats, has on her website that she works for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Daughter says, Daddy doesn't like Trump's tweets on podcasts when she's ranting about what she does to help Democrats. So all of this is now going to the same judge. They asked for permission to submit this full brief. Judge Merchan has granted that. Now we start. All right, Judge Juan. So they're asking the guy who wrecked the case to reconsider or to do something about him wrecking the case. You'll see how that works, so we'll see if he's really amenable to those arguments. Finally, Rob, get started. President Trump, Juan, respectfully submits this motion to dismiss the indictment and to vacate the jury's verdicts based on immunity. We know the case came back down from the Supreme Court of the United States, and you need to consider that now. They tell Judge Juan and Attorney Bragg, they say, all right, buckos, no president of the United States has ever been treated as unfairly and unlawfully as Bragg has acted towards President Trump, all in connection with a biased investigation. This extraordinarily delayed charging decision that they dragged out forever, and this baseless prosecution that gives rise to this very motion, saying these politically motivated actions are prime examples of the type of factional strife that the framers intended to avoid. It's one-sided lawfare that risks enfeebling the presidency and our very government, and the establishment of an executive branch, if you do it this way, that's going to cannibalize itself. Now, previously abstract risks, these fanciful ideas that there would be some local hostilities that would give rise to the targeting of federal officials has happened now. Now, it's part of a concocted, concerted, but unsuccessful effort to stop and hinder Trump's leading campaign in the presidential election. And it's to also restrict his constitutionally protected speech, not only Trump's speech, but our speech as well. Now, they continue with this very old and important adage that you have surely heard. It says, haste makes waste. If you go fast, you screw up. It's an old adage. And it survived so long because it's right so often. Coming from the 7th Circuit, they're quoting them. They say, like special counsel Jack Smith, who's not even a lawful special counsel because he's appointed and unlawfully appropriated. Like him, though, Bragg, Alvin, is insisting and did insist on proceeding on a highly expedited basis. He wanted to go fast. Why? Well, election interference. They had a mission. It was driven by President Biden and his associates like Angelo. Rather than wait for the Supreme Court's guidance, no, they could have waited because the Supreme Court was deciding all of this in real time. The prosecutors scoffed with hubris at President Trump. Immunity for you? And insisted on rushing to trial despite the fact that no court has ever been faced with the question of a president's immunity from prosecution. Never come up before. Andy McCarthy did some research on that. You know who supported him? Turley. You know who supported him? Rifkin Jr. You know who supported him? Many others, like Elizabeth Price Foley. So there's a lot of details here. No president has been criminally prosecuted before. Now, Bragg urged this court, you, Judge Juan Merchan, and you did it, to front run the Supreme Court of the United States.
Facts.
You tried to get ahead of them. It's like, okay, you know mom's coming home, so you have to get this done before mom gets home. Because if mom caught you doing this, she would stop you, and you'd be in big trouble. But if you get it done before mom comes home, then maybe you get away with it. Maybe mom doesn't know. Maybe it's all done. You say it's all closed, whatever. So no. But Bragg urged this court, right? They were trying to conspire to deviate past the Supreme Court
Court. And they did it not on some sneaky case, on a federal constitutional issue. First of its kind novel, with grave implications on how the federal government works and how the balance exists between the state and federal officials. But guess what, Judge? He's really talking to the judge also. He's not going to condemn or scold the judge here. He'd love to. We'll do it for him. But he would love to. He can't. But he's going to come down on Alvin Bragg. The record's clear, Judge. The judge allowed the record to happen this way. It says that Bragg was wrong. Very wrong.
Facts.
Be that as it may, Your Honor now has the authority to address these injustices. We'll see if he does, since he allowed them to happen. But the court, okay, you have the authority, but guess what? It doesn't matter if you think you don't or whatever. You have no discretion here. In fact, it is now mandatory. You are duty bound to do so because the Supreme Court said so. Under the Supreme Court case that said that Trump does have immunity, Bragg violated the presidential immunity doctrine and the supremacy clause. Well, how did he do that? Well, he relied on evidence, all of it relating to
Facts.
official acts. We covered the whole trial here at length, thanks to our friend.
And I watched it every day.
Press presiding, who gave us some very good details on what was going on inside there. We know they were talking all about stuff that Trump was talking about in 2017 and 18. Who was the president in 2017 and 18? Donald Trump. They knew that. Trump said, I was the president. I have immunity. And they said, no, you don't. We're going to trial. Trump said, this is unprecedented, okay? This is unfounded. Never happened before. Much of the unconstitutional official acts evidence that they introduced unlawfully concerned actions taken pursuant to the core executive power where absolute immunity applies. For this bucket on the right. Overall, the impermissible official acts evidence included a bunch of stuff. Here is what the president does. President Trump's private conversations with the White House comms director, Hope Hicks. Observations by the director of Oval Operations, Madeleine Westerhout, about Trump's preferences and practices in the Oval Office.
That's why he won.
Talked about Air Force One and Marine One, as well as secure calls in the white presidential immunity argument. So
I'm not going to, I just wanted to, and I need to put this under Judge Mershon. And that's why y'all need to get Alvin Bragg out of office. For real. He is awful. Yeah, I'm trying to finish this video. I got to find my cat. They ain't care nothing about Trump, but them migrants was doing mayhem all around New York City. They get arrested, they get let out, even for red rum. Okay, so we ain't really got nothing on that one. Okay, we got one more. Then I got to jump in my car. I got to find my cat. I'm sitting up here worried. It's the last one. Okay, here we go. Let me see. Shoot, they out there prostituting like a mug on Roosevelt. They ain't stopping that, but they were so worried about convicting Trump and thought that them little 34 charges was a misdemeanor that they turned into a felony was going to stop him from winning. Everybody seen what he did. Those who knew, I watched that trial every day. Okay, here we go. This is the last one right here.
After further briefings on these issues beginning on July 10th, it will be manifest that the trial results cannot stand. Oh, that's good. The court's decision will be rendered off calendar on September 6th, and the matter is adjourned to September 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. for the imposition of a sentence, if such is still necessary, or other proceedings. Oh, man!
Right, this is a president who has talked about absolutely using the Justice Department to go after his rivals. This explicitly immunizes.
Shut up, bitch, with your lying ass. This is Robert Colvia, Esquire.
Alvin Bragg's in big trouble. So is Judge Merchan and the rest of the Democrats. They really wanted Trump to be sentenced so that they could call him officially a felon. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe not at all. Judge Merchan is even saying that. We'll see if this even has to happen now that the Supreme Court has said Trump is entitled to at least some immunity. And Judge Merchan didn't go through that inquiry at the start of the trial. So we're going to talk about what's going on here because Trump submitted his challenge to the conviction saying, you done goofed here, Judge. The government responded, said, we're going to need a lot of time to investigate this. And Judge Merchan agreed. And there's some very particular language in there that's going to matter bigly. So let's go through some of the filings and see what happened before we get to the judge's official ruling. This came out right after the Supreme Court from the Trump team. Remember that this judge, Judge Merchan, who donated to Joe Biden twice, and his daughter works for Joe Biden and does fundraising for him, made $93 million for the Democrats, all the things. Trump submitted a motion to him that was asking him to consider immunity. And the judge said immunity does not apply to you. And when Trump appealed that, they also said it doesn't apply to you. Okay, so Trump has already brought this up. It was already denied. So that is etched into the record. So we can refer back to that and say, oh, remember when we asked you about that and you said no? You should have said yes. You screwed up, Judge. So now they're coming back. They say, all right, Your Honor, well, nice to see you again. We respectfully submit this pre-motion letter, and this judge doesn't want actual filings from anybody. He just wants one page. He says, write a pre-motion before you submit an actual motion because he doesn't want Trump to muck up the public record with the truth. So he keeps all of that buried. And so as we see here before, Trump now puts margins all the way to the very end to squeeze as much as he can onto a single sheet. He's like, oh, I get one page? Okay, how about we do 0.333 margins? So Trump is now submitting this to the judge. He says, listen, Your Honor, we're submitting this pre-motion letter seeking leave to set aside the jury's verdicts because they're illegitimate, pursuant to New York law.
Facts.
Based on the decision.
Come on, Trump.
Came out from the Supreme Court. Now, as explained below, Judge Merchan, the Trump decision from the SCOTUS confirmed the defense position that we already tried to tell you, that Alvin Bragg should not have been permitted to offer evidence of trial of Trump's official acts. We done told you already, but you didn't listen. Now, we respectfully request and tell, and this is like a big thing, all right? They say, you should not have been permitted. We told you no. You said yes. We said absolutely not. You said absolutely yes. It's on the record. There's tons of filings. We read them. And so, since you were wrong, we respectfully request until July 10th to submit a memorandum of law in support of this motion. Because of the complexity of the issue,
go get him.
President Trump does not object to an adjournment of the July 11th sentencing date, which was scheduled
Max is back, y'all.
Adequate time for a full briefing, for oral arguments, and for a decision from you, Judge, because we need to get into this. So here's the background, just in case you forgot. By way of background, on March 7th, 2000,
it's gonna be a long time for y'all go back outside.
Which is a preliminary type of motion to preclude evidence before the trial ever started to say this cannot come in, and we have to keep out specifically official acts, and it was based on the presidential immunity doctrine. Do you know why? Oh yeah, because we were talking about that in the Judge Chutkan case in Washington, D.C., knowing that this was going up on appeal. Now, in that filing, which we told you, Judge, we objected to anticipated testimony from certain potential government witnesses, evidence of President Trump's social media posts and his public statements. None of that should have come in because it was official. And in 2018,
no, it's gonna be a long day in hell for they go out.
All of these little bits of evidence. Witnesses might comment
on
Trump's social media posts, might reference official stuff. Public statements clearly official. In 2018, he was the president. So we also requested an adjournment.
Now, once I knew Jack was coming, because I would have got scared if Jack
One is stop the evidence from
because
coming
usually
in.
if Jack had come back,
just checking that in.
And he went right down
They said
hungry.
no. They said, okay, well, how about this? If you're going to allow all of that,
is an adjournment of the trial date.
Your flat rate,
We don't have
$19
trial
an
right
hour.
now because the Supreme Court had already granted certiorari, which means they were
You
accepting
can,
the
it
case
don't
on
matter.
February 28th.
Oh, wait, do you work tomorrow?
They were agreeing to hear oral argument on April 25th.
3:45 at Wixom.
Could
I might
have until
cancel
they
that.
decided, and we asked you to do that.
And
You
catch
said
one
no.
over
In a
here.
decision order that was dated on April 3rd, Judge Merchan ruled incorrectly in our view that the motion was untimely, right? So the judge had to find another reason.
Because I'm full all the way to Thursday now.
It's going to start any minute. So we have to go forward. So in an April 15th
Look.
pre-motion letter, we explained that this law, this 255.20 from New York law, does not apply to motions to preclude evidence. So the judge relied on some technicality to try to stop the motion from moving forward. But turns out the judge
That's
relied
how
on
I normally
technicality
do, even when I
on
was
April
at risk.
19th, then, Your Honor, Judge Merchan appeared to agree and advised the parties that the
You had
court would
$60
rule on
fee.
presidential immunity objections during the trial
But
based
I'm
on
just
quote your
saying,
arguments
now
in
it's
the
back.
letters. That's from a transcript. So the judge says,
So
well,
they
it's
must stop
untimely.
them when
And they
you,
say, well, no, Judge, you're wrong. It's not untimely. This is a motion to preclude evidence.
That
which is
ain't
why we
never
filed it
happened
this way.
before.
So you're wrong. And he said, oh, okay, you're right. I got the rules wrong. So
Oh,
I
this
will listen to your
is-
arguments at trial. Now, during the trial, Merchan noted our objection. Your Honor, here it is. Objection to that, noted. And we re-raised the presidential immunity argument. So we've now made this argument multiple times. Now, at trial and during summations, the prosecutors from Bragg's office, they placed highly prejudicial emphasis on official
99.
acts evidence. That's all they talked about, including witness testimony. They specifically talked about events in the Oval Office that Bragg's team described as devastating. And all of it's official. They also talked
27
about
is
social
February.
media posts that came out during Trump's
Yeah, I'm about
first
to
term. You
cancel
see
that.
these? These
Let
were
me see.
government
I
exhibits,
hope I don't
407F,
cancel
407I,
that.
official acts. You didn't even consider whether he was immune from that or not. We also have the OGE form. That's the Office of Government Ethics form, which came out in March 2018. He was the president in March 2018.
I just got
and we also
Friday.
have toll records reflecting
Look,
Gary's
I
calls
just got
involving
Friday.
President Trump while he was in office in 2017. All of these are government exhibits. Now, under the Trump case that just came down from the Supreme Court, this official acts evidence should never have been put before the jury. And consistent with arguments that we made before and during the trial, the Supreme Court, as we told you, held that President Trump may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers. Can't do it. And he's entitled to, at minimum, a presumption of immunity from
Facts.
prosecution for all his official acts. And he
He was given presidential immunity. This stuff happened under his first presidency. They unfairly went after him and he won, and he keep winning. Y'all need to not get Alvin Bragg up out of there, and that damn Letitia James. Well, she about to go to jail anyway. Letitia James is, and I'm coming back with her ass. And you know what? Another thing, you vote for people. I will no longer vote for anybody just because you black. I'm only voting based on policy that affects me, my family, and my pocketbook. Point blank, you black don't give you no merits with me because you're black boule assholes. You're black boule, the gatekeepers of the Illuminati. George Soros back most of these DAs. You not for us. You the gatekeepers. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm out.